Welcome back, you guys. This is Ian McKenzie with the Average Bros Fitness, the bro info for you guys. Before we get started, I want to encourage you guys to go check out the website with all the interviews and the wonderful businesses I've been visiting to learn about their stories and how they are currently innovating new fitness ideas and bringing them into the mainstream. For today's video, I've got a cool look at some new research on fat loss and more specifically about refeed days. We've heard about refeed days. They've been around forever. So many people, whether they be preparing for a show or just doing a regular weight loss plan, goes into it with some idea of how they're going to refeed. So this is a new study. I've got my notes and I've got the study in front of me, and I want to share some things that they discovered that give a more concrete definition to how we should approach refeed days. There's many different ways you can go about it, but the rule of thumb is you can't look at refeed days as a time to binge. You use it as a way to very progressively reintroduce calories back into your diet. How do we do it properly? What's a good way to go about it if you were to implement it into a more strict diet plan? So, without further ado, the study was by Bill Campbell in South Florida, right? He took 58 men and women and he divided them into two groups. Because of the people dropping out, only 27 total participants managed to finish this study. One group, the control group, did a 7-week diet plan where during that 7 weeks, they decreased their maintenance calories by 25%, right? They never did one refeed day. It was a continuous 25% deficit from start to finish, right? That was the control group. The test group was the refeed day group. So for 5 days, Monday through Friday, they kept their caloric deficit at 35% less than maintenance calories. On Saturday and Sunday, the 2 weekend days, right, they did a refeed. This was a controlled refeed that involved implementing carbs back into their diet so that they could reach 100% up to their maintenance calories that they had before they did the calorie deficit, right? So those 2 refeed days were simply to bring them up to maintenance, and then they'd go back to that 35% deficit on the next week. They did this for 7 weeks, okay? What they found at the end of this period was that the refeed group had actually preserved muscle, right? They had actually gained some level of muscle. The way they did the diet too was they each had 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So each of these diets were very controlled, and they made up the rest with even amounts of carbs and fat, right? The refeed group lost less muscle mass than the continuous dieting group, right? The continuous dieting group lost 0.7 kilograms of muscle mass, refeed group 0.4 kilograms of muscle mass. The refeed group lost more fat. They lost 2.8 kilograms of fat, and the other group lost 2.3 kilograms of fat, right? They lost more fat in the refeed group, and they lost less muscle. So that's the whole thing. In the discussion section, this is what he said. His 2 theories were very simple. During those 2 days of refeed, catabolism was blunted. So catabolism was prevented during those 2 days of refeed. And then on top of that, it also stored up more glycogen. So when they began their regimen in the beginning of the week, they had more energy going into the gym so they could make more progress with their lifts and approach their workouts with more strength. So they made ultimately more progress with body fat loss because they restored their glycogen, right? It preserves muscle better than no refeed days, right? And then the metabolic rate is better maintained during those refeed days. And on top of that, if a lean, resistance-trained individual seeks to reduce caloric intake for the purpose of fat loss, this should be undertaken with relatively high protein intake, a slow rate of weight loss, and periodic carbohydrate refeeding. So this study gives a more concrete definition of how we should approach refeeding. Instead of 1 day, he surmised 2 days, right? And what it's showing is that it potentially has implications on glycogen restoring. Then you kind of fight back that catabolism a bit instead of just maintaining this consistent reduction in calories. So that's it, you guys. That's my summary, and hopefully you guys get a little bit out of that. This is the new research. This study was done in March of 2020, so it's very new, very recent. I'm going to post the link in the comments below and give you guys access to that study. If you want to fact check me, go in, take a look at it. This is just one study Again, smaller group size. I'm sure certain people are going to pick this apart and go, well, you can't just make absolute. It's a theory. It's an idea and a cool way to approach refeed days if you want a concrete plan. Stay tuned for more cool stuff from me, yours truly.